Welcome back. Here's a quick recap to set the stage. With no room for negotiation, Wrath unleashes his fury upon Raon, granting him a surge of raw, divine anger. Sloth, sensing a familiar aura, turns toward Raon with a flicker of surprise. Now empowered, Raon steps forward, locking eyes with the Demon Lord. His voice cuts through the tension. "Trash like you, how dare you cause a scene in this haven?" As Wrath's energy radiates from him, Raon stands tall and declares with unwavering confidence, "This is the territory of the Lord of Wrath, and I am the vessel that holds his power." Wrath, stunned by Raon's audacity, falls silent. Then, breaking the moment, he erupts in curses, furious that Raon dared to invoke his name so boldly. Raon, unfazed, thinks to himself, "What do you think? Punishing you for messing with me," and reeling in another pushover. Sloth watches from below, eyes fixed on Raon standing atop the castle walls. If you're new here or need a refresher, I highly recommend checking out the previous chapter before diving into this one. And before we begin, a massive shout out to GGJ for the super thanks. Your support means the world. Now that we're all caught up, let's dive into this new chapter. Wrath's anger and worry boiled over as he demanded, "What kind of bullshit is that? Why are you my vessel?" His frustration grew, and he continued, "And why are you saying this pathetic castle is my land?" Raon's response was calm and authoritative, his voice low and even, "I'm not done yet, so please keep your mouth closed." The words were a clear warning, a signal that Raon would not be interrupted or deterred. Sloth's gaze narrowed as he realized the nature of Raon's aura, and he asked, "You're Wrath's vessel?" Raon's response was calm and collected. "Yes," he continued, "and right now, Wrath is expressing his rage at you for daring to approach his territory." In the background, Wrath's anger erupted. "Stop spouting bullshit. Why are you randomly saying things I never said?" His voice was a mixture of frustration and confusion, but Raon remained unfazed, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Wrath's fury. As Raon watched Wrath's reaction, he thought to himself, "Yeah, get worked up, Wrath, your protests are futile anyway." A hint of amusement danced in his thoughts, as he reveled in Wrath's frustration. His gaze then shifted to Sloth, who looked shocked by Raon's claim. Raon's thoughts continued, "What that guy will end up feeling is the rage you gave me through the bet. And that wrath is radiating out of my body." Sloth's gaze faltered, and he stammered, "Wrath." Raon's voice boomed, "As Wrath's vessel, I'll convey his will verbatim. Engrave it in your heart now." The words were a command, imbued with the authority of Wrath's power. Above Raon's head, Wrath's floating face turned pale with worry, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and anticipation. For a moment, Raon closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then unleashed a torrent of wrath. His voice boomed, "To think you dare to trespass into my territory, you must want to die. If you don't stop right now, I'll make it so you can never sleep again for the rest of your life, you lazy bastard." Wrath's anger boiled over as he cursed Raon. "Are you bats hit insane? When did I even say something like that?" His voice was a mixture of frustration and incredulity, as he struggled to comprehend Raon's audacity. Meanwhile, Sloth's expression turned thoughtful, and he murmured, I can't sleep again." Raon's gaze locked onto Sloth's reaction, and for a moment, he was speechless. A thought flashed through his mind, "I was half gambling, but it looks like it's working." But before he could savor the moment, he began to shout, "Lord Wrath, please don't do that." The words were a stark contrast to his previous confident demeanor, and Sloth's eyes widened in surprise as he looked at Raon. Raon's voice was laced with urgency as he pleaded, "Please hold it, you can't do something like that. You must not descend right now." He raised his hand, revealing Wrath's bracelet to Sloth. After seeing Raon's act, Wrath's anger erupted, "You bastard, what are you doing? What are you trying to pull?" But Raon continued his act. "This power isn't something you gathered to use on the likes of Sloth. You needed to subjugate this continent beneath your feet." Wrath's worry turned to alarm. "Continent? What is it now?" As Raon's words seemed to strike a chord, Sloth's gaze was fixed on Raon, who stood tall, shouting towards the sky. Sloth's eyes widened in shock as he stared at Raon, his voice barely above a whisper, "Wait." He took a step closer, his gaze fixed intently on Raon's hand, and his thoughts began to piece together the puzzle. "That flower bracelet is definitely Wrath's." Raon's words dripped with menace. "You need to get revenge since he dared to touch your subordinate? You'll even follow him forever to make sure he can't sleep?" "No, even if it's you, Lord Wrath, that's..." As Raon's words hung in the air, Sloth's face turned pale with worry and fear. He murmured, his voice trembling, "Wrath will follow me around and not let me sleep, and fight me during that as well." Sloth's thoughts swirled with the implications. "If I keep fighting Wrath, I won't be able to sleep. The memory of Wrath's face flashed in his mind, and his thoughts continued, a random human as Wrath's energy, his bracelet, and even knows what I hate the most. Sloth's face twisted in frustration, and he gritted his teeth, muttering, "Cook. He really is Wrath's vessel." The realization seemed to burn within him, and he felt a surge of anger and helplessness. As Wrath looked defeated, Raon's thoughts turned calculating. I created an annoying situation for Sloth based on what Wrath told me, and I also showed him Wrath's bracelet. Now things are going as I predicted. With a confident tone, Raon shouted, "To exculpate more, I'll introduce myself again. I am the vessel of Wrath, who will imminently become the body for his descent." The words hung in the air, a declaration of Raon's role and purpose. Raon's words flowed smoothly, "And I know why you have come. You must have had your sleep disturbed because of the wave." He gazed at Sloth, who remained silent, his eyes fixed intently on Raon's face. "However, you've picked the wrong opponent. The perpetrator of this incident is a group called Eden who used the monsters as their pawns. We were just protecting our castle from the wave that Eden caused." He paused for a moment, his expression turning serious. "Also, we don't know where those Eden bastards are." As Raon spoke, Sloth listened intently, his expression a mixture of curiosity and calculation. Sloth's voice was laced with a hint of skepticism. "So you're saying you aren't involved? If you're telling the truth, I have no reason to fight Wrath." As he departed, Sloth spoke over his shoulder, "I'm going back. I need to go back to sleep." Raon's eyes narrowed, his gaze fixed on Sloth's retreating figure. He thought to himself, "The energy he's radiating has slightly weakened. Now is the time." Raon's voice echoed through the air, "Lord Wrath, you need to hold back. You cannot come out yet." Sloth's footsteps halted, and he turned to face Raon, surprise etched on his features. Wrath's anger boiled over. "Don't push it, you insane bastard." But Raon ignored Wrath's outburst, his focus fixed on Sloth. "You have something to say. All right, I will convey it exactly, so please wait." Raon's voice took on a serious tone. "Sloth, how dare you just leave like that after laying your hands on my subordinate?" Sloth's response was calm and collected. "Wrath, I didn't know you were here." Raon's words cut through the air. "You should shut your mouth if you're just going to make excuses. If I didn't show up, that means you wouldn't have killed my subordinates. Since you're also a demon, you should know, right? A life for a life." Sloth's expression remained impassive. "No, I didn't even." But before he could finish, Raon interrupted, "Don't argue with me." The air was thick with tension, as Raon's anger and authority seemed to dominate the conversation. "Because of the monsters that ran from you, my subordinates died. And do you think I'll just ignore the fact that you blamed unrelated people for waking you up?" Sloth's eyes locked onto Raon's, and he became speechless, as if frozen by the intensity of Raon's gaze. Raon's words hung in the air. "However, taking your life as payment doesn't quite add up, so, as the noble lord of the demon realm, I shall grant you a chance. Make your choice." Meanwhile, Wrath's face above Raon's head twisted in frustration, his teeth gritted in anger. He seemed to be seething with resentment, unable to intervene. Raon's voice echoed through the air. "Will you give up the sleep you hold most dear, or will you surrender your power to this king's vessel?" Wrath's eyes widened in shock as he stared at Raon, his anger boiling over. "You bastard, this was your goal the entire time. You demon-like bastard." Wrath's words were laced with fury, but Raon remained unfazed. Sloth's expression turned thoughtful, and he replied, "You're telling me to choose between sleep and my power. That's an easy choice." Wrath's voice was a panicked scream in Raon's mind. "No, you need to kill this bastard, Sloth." But his words were lost on Sloth, who seemed intent on his own path. As Sloth conjured a magic circle in midair, Wrath's desperation grew. "You're being tricked by a human who's worse than a demon. You can literally kill him with a wave of your hand. Please stop now." Wrath's eyes locked onto Sloth's face, his gaze pleading for sanity. As Sloth's energy began to flow towards Raon, Wrath's screams turned to anguish. "Nuo!" The sound was a primal wail, a mixture of rage and despair. As Sloth's black aura enveloped Raon, his eyes widened in surprise and amazement. The air seemed to vibrate with dark energy, and Raon's gaze locked onto Sloth's. A system window materialized, its message stark and clear. "A portion of the power of Sloth is infused into your soul and body. The ability will activate after the adaptation period ends." Raon's eyes widened in shock as he gazed at the black aura enveloping him. "Is this the energy of Sloth?" Raon's thoughts swirled with questions and wonder. Meanwhile, Wrath's form crumpled to the ground, his face twisted in a mixture of despair and exhaustion. "So this is where I die. To think I would die from stress." His words were barely audible, a pitiful murmur as he seemed to succumb to the weight of his own frustration. Sloth's footsteps echoed as he turned to leave, his voice laced with exhaustion. I'm going to leave now, I'm too sleepy, I'm going to bed. Raon's voice cut through the air. Sloth, stop right there. Sloth halted in his step, a hint of amusement dancing on his lips. What is it now? He turned his head back, his gaze locking onto Raon's, and his expression shifted from amusement to annoyance. The air seemed to chill with Sloth's glare, as if the very atmosphere itself was responding to his displeasure. Raon's eyes locked onto Sloth's angry glare, and he felt a shiver run down his spine. Incredible killing intent. If I provoke him any further, whether I'm wrath or not, he'll kill me. The thought sent a spark of caution through Raon's mind. With a sudden movement, Raon reached into his coat and pulled out a small, cloth-covered stone. I have something to give you. Take this, it's something you'll need. Raon's words were laced with a sense of urgency, and he threw the stone towards Sloth. Sloth caught the stone in surprise, his eyes narrowing as he gazed at the cloth-covered object in his hand. As Sloth unwrapped the cloth, a red stone emitting a warm aura came into view. Raon's voice was clear. It's the magic stone of the Goblin King. Sloth's eyes lit up as he held the stone, and he thought to himself, this is so warm. With this, I could keep sleeping forever. Raon's words continued, I'll give you that, so no matter what commotion happens here in the future, don't come down, and if a wave breaks out, make sure you control it properly and stop it. Sloth's gaze remained fixed on the magic stone, his fingers wrapping around it tightly. Sloth's eyes locked onto Raon's, and he asked, that's not difficult, but is this also Wrath's request? Raon's expression remained serious as he replied, no, this is a deal I'm proposing to you in order for you to not appear here again. Sloth raised his hand, and his aura began to swirl around him. Compared to the worth of this magic stone, it's a cheap price. His words trailed off, and the aura suddenly enveloped Raon's hand. Raon's eyes widened in fear, and he was left speechless. As the aura surrounded his hand, Raon's gaze shot up to Sloth's face, and he asked in a trembling voice, what are you? Sloth's voice was calm and soothing. Don't worry, this is just the change. As Raon looked at his hand, a black bracelet materialized beside the blue one Wrath had given him earlier. Sloth's words were laced with a hint of amusement. That will be of help to you someday. Raon's curiosity got the better of him, and he asked, but why a flower bracelet of all things? Sloth's response was tinged with mockery. It was tailored to your master's taste. Sloth's footsteps echoed as he turned and walked away, his voice carrying over his shoulder. Then I'm going to leave before your master bothers me again. Raon's gaze followed Sloth's retreating figure, and he stood there in silence, without uttering a word. Raon's thoughts were a jumble of emotions and determination. You can't collapse yet. His eyes, underscored by dark lines, seemed to bore into the fading figure of Sloth. Not until Sloth is long gone and the sun rises again. You absolutely must not collapse. Raon's gaze turned to Wrath, who lay collapsed on the ground, his voice a weak curse. Raon, you son of a bitch. Raon's thoughts, however, were elsewhere, reflecting on the danger that had just passed. Now that I think about it, it was really dangerous. As he looked at the unconscious soldiers, Raon's mind replayed the events that had transpired. If I had no information on Sloth, or if Wrath didn't agree to the bet, or if anyone inside the castle stayed conscious, I wouldn't have been able to use this method. As Raon gazed out at the castle before him, he felt the weight of the night's events bearing down on him, a hopeless night that felt like it would never end. The words echoed in his mind, a testament to the trials he had faced. But as the Demon King's figure vanished from sight, the darkness that had seemed so oppressive began to recede. The sun slowly rose, casting its warm rays over the landscape. The night's terrors began to fade, and with the dawn, a sense of relief washed over Raon, and tonight's nightmare ended like that. Friends, this chapter comes to an end. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us on this adventure. If you're excited to see what happens next, let me know in the comments, ask for more chapters, and I'll keep them coming. If you'd like to support the channel and be part of our family, consider joining as a member. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help grow this community. Until next time, stay tuned.